My name is Linden Thomas, and my mentor is
Professor Bernadette Griffin.
So we first met back in 2008, I think it was, when I had just finished my GDL, so my conversion course to law, and then my legal practice course. And I had a year before I was due to start my training contract that I needed to fill. And there was a job that came up at the College of Law, where you were the regional director at the time, for a marketing coordinator. And I applied for it and got that job, and for lots of reasons it was one of the best decisions or twists of fate that I think I ever had, because the job itself taught me huge amounts about the local legal profession, about professionalism, networking. It was really a confidence builder and a confidence booster that I think if I hadn't had that job and that opportunity, I would have gone straight into my training contract without that confidence and that understanding. And there's lots of opportunities I wouldn't have put myself forward for, so being chair of the Trainee Solicitor Society, which then led directly to my involvement with Birmingham Law Society, which is kind of why I'm sat here now as president. So that role was hugely important to me, but I think also working with you as well. And I think that really I didn't realise until afterwards, when I went on and worked with other people. I think that's when I really appreciated your style of leadership and what it meant. So when we worked together, you were so approachable and hugely inspirational, and obviously, leading in your field and leading this huge organisation, but yet you were so friendly and kind and supportive, and I was probably one of the most junior people in the organisation, but you knew me and you knew what I wanted to do, and you made sure that I got all those opportunities. And probably at the time I thought, well, that's just what you do, because that was my first professional role, or role in a professional working environment. So I didn't know that not all leaders were that way with everyone in their organisation. And as I've moved through my career, I think I've been really fortunate that there are lots of people who've given me opportunities and been supportive. But I've also encountered people where that hasn't been their leadership approach, that hasn't been their style. And so I think that made me appreciate all the more what an important and generous thing that is, and that you gave to me, and that I really hope to emulate in my career as I progress as well. So I learned a really important lesson from you. And then we stayed in touch, didn't we?
We did. But it was exciting times as well, because you were an inspirational young person. And if you remember the College of Law, it had a lot of contact with the legal firms, Birmingham Law Society, and the university students, careers, and you encapsulated all that because you were the young person of the future, and you connected so well with the universities and the students and the marketing team in the College of Law. We had a fantastic team, and it wasn't just me who actually gave you that encouragement and development. It was the whole team of marketing, and it was really fantastic. But your skills, you're passionate. You have got a very calm and genteel leadership approach, but you firmly direct people. And as a young person and as a maturer person, you needed that within the development within the universities and the firms. And that marketing coordinating role was the first role in the College of Law. And you actually made that role, and it stayed with the college for many years until the structure changed. And that was fantastic. But actually, you, as well as chair of Birmingham Trainee Solicitor Society, you led that society, you led the activities, and you have such energy. I don't know where you get all the energy from, but you have such energy. And I would say that everybody who comes across you actually say what a fantastic, beautiful person you are, and how knowledgeable and skilled you are, and you make them feel at ease as well. So it was a really wholesome, holistic approach, and you were fantastic for that first role.
Thank you, that's really kind.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that I wanted to say is that, so we stayed in touch, I went into private practice, did my training contract, had a fabulous time, really enjoyed it, spent a few years in private practice, and then after a few years I started to feel like I wanted to do something different and perhaps wanted to be challenged in a different way, and so I made the move from private practice into education to where I now work at the University of Birmingham, and started to lead the pro bono programs there, then started to teach and to take on other roles and responsibilities. But I think when I first went to make that move, lots of people very understandably kind of took me to one side and said, have you really thought this through? This is a very different career track that you're going down, and you had good prospects probably in the career path that I was on at that stage. And you actually, I remember coming into the College of Law and meeting you for a coffee to say, well, I think I'm going to accept this job. What do you think? And you were so encouraging and said, just go for it. You won't look back. And I'm so glad that I did take the leap of faith, because the route that my career has now gone on, I absolutely love. It's given me opportunities to travel the world. I get to pursue my passion for pro bono. I get to work with students, and it's just completely enjoyable and challenging and different every day. And I think that just having someone to say, go for it, this is for you and you won't regret it, just made a big difference in making that leap of faith. So thank you for staying in touch and for doing that as well.
I think really it was because I came from a practice academic background, and actually lots of people had actually said, don't leave practice. Once you go into academia, you won't go back into practice. And in fact, that isn't true, because when you're in academia, you actually are in practice, and even more so these days, because the links between firms and academia, you will know from your role in Kepler, manager of Kepler, that there is great contact. It's very important for actually the legal practice to be linked to academia. And I could see you would enjoy them both. You've actually got the research skills, you've got the practical skills, and you've got the personal skills, and you would enjoy it because you would see the enthusiasm of the students learning, but also the overseas development and the access to justice, which you've now taken up as part of your presidential role, which is really excellent. So actually you epitomise actually everything that would have been good to marry academia and practice. So it was really interesting to talk to you and say, go for it, and you really will enjoy it. And it doesn't mean that you won't go back into practice, but you may go back into practice using the pro bono knowledge and your research. And of course you're doing writing now, legal research writing in relation to clinical legal education. So your expansion has been terrific, and that's a lot more than you would have got if you stayed in practice.
Absolutely, and I think sometimes there is a view, and I've seen it from both sides of the fence, about moving from practice to academia, whether that will be intellectually challenging and rigorous enough to move into teaching and research, and then the other way, thinking if you move from research and teaching into private practice, that won't give you the same kind of intellectual challenges and rigour, and actually that reassurance that I wasn't going to be dumbing down, I wasn't going to be giving anything away, I was going to be gaining from it, was really valuable and definitely has proved to be true.
And if you actually think your first year at the university, from what you did then to what you're doing now, it's a fantastic development. And to do all that overseas work and great opportunities. And again, you are a role model for young people, and particularly young women, because it isn't just actually practice provides you with this. Practice can provide you with so many different avenues, and you can develop and become whatever you want to become. So that's terrific.
And we're not always great as lawyers, I think, of thinking like that, are we? So sometimes we think there's this A to B career path between trainee and partner, but we do have these hugely transferable skills, and having, I think, a mentor or someone that can help you to stick your head above the parapet and say, this is one option and it's a fantastic option, but there are all these other things that you can do, and that you've developed and picked up those skills to be able to pursue if you want to, I think is really, really valuable and useful, because you can't always do that for yourself when you're in that kind of with your head down working. So, were you the first woman, or did you find yourself in a minority in many of the roles that you did, that you took on?
Yes. Initially in academia, which is going back some years, I went from practice into academia and did research as well as teaching, etc. And in those days, to become a principal lecturer at an early age, it tended to be males. I suppose one of the questions I do remember being asked when applying for that role was whether I would be able to control mature men, which today would not be asked. But years ago was, well, hopefully not be asked, but years ago was an acceptable question. And actually, my view was, if you're respected as an individual and you are right for the role and have the leadership skills that embrace all people, then actually you can do that role. So I do think there was discrimination, although to be fair, it wasn't discrimination as you would expect it today, because that would have been the norm. But it does actually teach you to think about, well, what are my attributes? Instead of actually taking it as being defensive, what are my attributes? What am I going to add? And how am I going to actually lead all different kinds of people? And I think that's something that you can relate to.
Well, funnily enough, I was asked that question about that yesterday. So I was asked whether I find that I'm treated differently because of my age in this role as BLS president, or because I'm a woman. And my response was quite possibly, probably. There are probably some incidents that I can think of where I think, well, you might not have quite phrased that in exactly the same way as you would if I was a man in my 50s or 60s doing this role. But actually, it's not something that I really let bother me or I'm concerned about, because what I'm more concerned about is making sure that I'm competent and able and doing the job to the best of my ability and doing it well, and then that speaks for itself. And people can't criticise that, or if people have lower expectations, then it's so much easier to exceed them by doing a good job and doing it well. So
and I think looking at other people and seeing how they actually relate when they're presenting or discussing particular aspects, that helps you to see how you can, even if you're asked a question that appears negative, how to turn it around and make it a positive experience for yourself as well as the other people. And I think we always did that in presentations, because if you remember, sometimes in presentations at all different levels, whether it's with firms, with universities, with students, you could get negative questions. And we did sometimes get asked by particularly students as to the position of females within the legal profession and the glass ceiling. And we could actually turn that round and say, well, you've got to actually develop, you've got to actually turn it as a positive aspect, turn it on its head and show that really it's you as an individual that counts, not you as a female or a male. Well, I think the next stage is obviously flexibility in the workplace, ensuring that actually women are encouraged where they need to be encouraged for care reasons or personal reasons or work reasons, to have more part-time, flexible hours, to recognise that actually a lot of the legal work now is done with technology. So females as well as males can actually deliver the material and the knowledge that is required from home if necessary, or the non-workplace. So I think IT, technical knowledge, is the next step, which I do think will benefit women greatly, or those who need the flexibility.
And I think that change is very much already in play, isn't it?
Yes.
And I think tied to that around flexible working is the eradication of this idea, which persists in some firms, certainly not all firms, of FaceTime presence. So you're at your desk working and you have to be seen to be there in order to be doing your job and doing it well, whereas actually you can be efficient, you can be working elsewhere, you can, there's lots of things. So I think that probably there's some way to go still to break that down a little bit.
There is.
I think the other thing that I would like to see more of, and again I think it's starting, but more needs to be done, and I think there's scope for some male leaders to kind of take the lead and pave the way on this, is even more encouragement around, for example, men working flexibly and taking shared parental leave, because I know from experience from friends of mine that generally when it comes to parenting, for example, and we know that's one reason why many women find that they can no longer sustain their legal career is because they don't have that flexibility once they have a child. There are many couples for whom they in most respects have an equal share of parenting, but still the greater burden of taking that time out, the career break, falls on the women. And absolutely where that's a choice between a couple or a woman that they want to do that's brilliant. But where the woman would like to return to work earlier, it should be more encouraged and supported for men to take shared parental leave. And I think it's really important to have a culture change, and maybe some senior men within the industry, within firms, taking those leave opportunities to say this is acceptable and encouraged, because I have spoken to men around the age when they're thinking about having children, who are concerned about the impact that will have on their careers if they give up their clients for 6 months or 4 months and then have to build that caseload and those relationships back up, and they've gone elsewhere. Whereas we know if a woman wants a child, that's inevitable that she's going to take some time. So I think having more men doing that not only paves the way for other men to follow in their footsteps, but also will encourage law firms to be better at thinking about how, for both sexes, you handle that leave and that return to work and enable it so that it minimises the impact on career progression for people.
No, I completely agree, because actually there tends to be a behind the scenes comment, I think, if the male partner wants to take more time out, and that's a great shame for the development of the legal profession and society.
Absolutely.
And if that was taken up by a particular role model, a hierarchical role model in every firm, that would be fantastic. And it's not just children care, it's actually parental care as well. It's across the board, and we see it in other organisations now, and it is present in a few law firms, and there is lip service given to it. But as you quite rightly say, Linden, we actually need the role models from the males, and also the encouragement of the females, and that actually it isn't a talking point anymore in the future. That's the important point.
It's the norm that we have this whole range of options available that you can pick and choose from for whatever works for you as a couple or an individual. So, I think
because if we met again in 10 years' time, or maybe even less, we would hope we wouldn't be singling this out as a particular aspect.
And I think as well there is a business case for that kind of support for diversity and equality, because I think that you look after your staff, they have much more loyalty to your firm, to your organisation, to you as a leader. So I think there is a good business case.
And I think businesses that have encouraged that have found that they actually have progressed and developed, and they do have creativity, whereas those that do not encourage those developments, I think really there is a little bit of a fear system, and that's really not progressive.
And leads into the issues that we have around retention of women at that midpoint in their careers when they start to have any kind of caring responsibilities very often.
I mean, there is actually one thing I want to mention as well relating to you, and that is being president of Birmingham Law Society and what a development and a career progression that has been for you. And again, that is a role model, because it's only in very recent years that there have been females in the top roles at Birmingham Law Society.
Absolutely, and now we're in a position where we have 3 in succession, which is really lovely. So Anna's and Stephanie, who follow me, are. But I think there is a thing around there as well about being one of the earliest women to be in a role, being a relatively young woman to be in a role, and finding the best way for me to do that role and still be me, because I can't do it quite like I can't emulate the way that other people do it. I can pick certain elements that I would wish to emulate in terms of attributes and the way I approach it, but there's also certain things that just won't be my style and won't be me, and my style, because of my age, because of my gender, is inevitably going to be different to some other people. So to give an example, I did Birmingham Law Society joined in with the Birmingham Pride Parade for the first time this Saturday, and it was such a fantastic, happy, joyous, celebratory day, and it was a really lovely thing to be a part of. But I did have a moment as I donned my pink tutu to get ready for the parade of thinking, is this Birmingham Law Society, is this suitable for a Birmingham Law Society president to do? But I think it's that thing about there's lots of different ways to lead and to different types of leaders and styles. And
remember, actually, you're engaging the professionals of the future. So although maybe it isn't the maturer style of the past presidents, actually we are trying to encourage lots of the younger professionals to be part of Birmingham Law Society as well as other organisations, and they will connect with you, and that's fantastic. I mean, you could not imagine some of the past presidents in a tutu, but you, and actually that's great, because you will bring an even wider perspective to Birmingham Law Society that's needed for the future. So it's great. It's great and inspirational for the younger people.
Okay, so my hopes, my plans for the future, actually, I don't have a 5-year plan. Because of the career path that I've taken, I can see that there are a number of things that might interest me and that I might like to do. And I think going right back to the beginning and what I learned from that marketing role at the College of Law is to take opportunities when they arise, because you never know what path they're going to take you down, and I don't mind if my career goes down a swerve because it's something that really interests me and challenges me. So I think more of the same, by which I mean more diversity, more new challenges, and seeing where that takes me, and working with a wide variety of different people as I do it.
And that actually again epitomises you, because you're open to lots of different opportunities, lots of different prospects and progression. So it's your style, and I can imagine you being maybe in a totally different position in 10 years' time. Who knows? It could be law, it could be some other area that you're using your legal skills, and but you've always been a person who's looked to the future in a very transparent fashion, which is great for the profession, great for Birmingham Law Society, and great for Birmingham University as well, and wherever you may go. So we will always actually look upon your future with great interest, especially at the college, because we see you as one of the early pioneers of the profession.
Thank you, that's very kind, and thank you for all you've done for me, and I hope that in 10 years' time we're still meeting for a coffee and I'm telling you what I'm up to.
And that we're still great friends.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you.